Hello there, welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Beautiful morning, actually. So hope it's a great day ahead indeed. So as we get into the program this morning, my first conversation focuses once more on the digital age that we're living in. We speak often about digital transformation, and we also tie to young entrepreneurs here. But one of the topics of which we haven't explored as yet is building your personal brand within the digital age. Yes, because your digital footprint actually has a lot more impact now than your physical footprint. A lot of companies focus solely on online advertising, and a lot of them actually tend to focus specifically on social media. But is that what personal branding is? Just having a name slapped onto a social media page and releasing content? Or is it more than that? Well, an individual who can speak to us about that this morning, I should say an online business strategist and probably a celebrity on the rise, according to a few I've spoken to. Mr. Karen Rose is with us via Zoom. Hello, sir. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Keaton. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I can't complain. A little tired, but can't complain.
Well, thanks very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Rose. Personal branding, let's start with that term. Precisely what would be, I suppose, the best way to define personal branding, the most effective way in order to understand what it is and what it means?
Yeah, so personal branding sometimes gets mixed up with reputation, but they're two different things, right? So basically, your personal brand is your efforts, your strategy, the story that you're going to tell to the world about yourself. It's going to be based on your skill sets, your education, your experiences. So you already have that foundation. You're good at something, right? I don't want it to come off like, because some people think that a personal brand is just this made up story that's rooted in nothing. No, a real good personal brand is based on you, the person, your real skills, your real life experiences. And what you're doing is you're learning how to tell the story about your experiences. You're learning how to show up in the world. You're learning how to craft that brand, that image that really showcases what you're all about, your experiences, your skills, your education. You represent your reputation is the result of the work you're putting in with your personal brand. So if you learn how to craft that story, you learn how to build your visuals, you learn how to build your brand, have your website, learn how to share your story, your experiences, and you're learning how to put that out. When people finally learn about you and you've worked on projects over time, people are going to start to talk about you. You're going to be known for whether you are really good at what you do, whether you're punctual, you're very knowledgeable. The end result of what the public perceives of you is your reputation. So your personal brand is everything you're kind of putting into your brand, what you're putting into the world and how you're showing up. The end result will be your representation that gets built up over time.
Mm-hmm. So in the professional world, as we move along in terms of this digital world, this digital era that we're living in, your personal branding, your professional branding, how is it different in terms of the digital age as compared to physical footprint, for example?
Well, now in digital world, you get Googled every day, right? People don't necessarily know you right out the gate. They're probably going to be going online. Maybe they have a problem. They're looking for help in a particular area. The first place people are going to go is they're going to go online. They're going to Google, hey, I need a plumber, or I need a mechanic, or maybe my back hurts, something. We're going online. We're going to be Googling our problems. The people who tend to show up on page one with the right information usually is who we're made aware of in that particular space. And then the person goes down the rabbit hole about the problem that they have, and they're going to start to learn more about you, the business or the person who is in that field of solving the problems that we have. So because our interactions and our transactions predominantly happen online now, you want to be able to show up in the digital space. You want to be able to showcase what you have done, who you are online, because that's where people are going to find information. Generally now, people don't always go and ask somebody for, hey, do you know somebody I can get my, do you know somebody I can go to a chiropractor? Do you know a plumber? And even if you do get a recommendation from your friend or family, we still tend to go online and research a bit more about that person. So you want to start focusing on building a personal brand because people are going to do their research first before committing their monies or, just making a commitment to go utilize your products or services. So it differs now more than ever because everybody's going online to do their homework first and they want to know who you are when they do that Google search.
How does personal branding differ to reputation, or is there a difference at all?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a difference. So like I was saying in the beginning, right? Your personal brand, that's the input. That is what you, the brand, the person, that is what you are putting together. So that could be your visuals. Your visuals could be your website. Your visuals are the photos, the videos that you're taking. You want to show up, as a well put together package, right? Whatever your idea of a well put together package is. For me, I like to show up in hoodies, and I like to be comfortable. People know who I am because I'm true to myself and I'm authentic. It translates online in everything that I do. Now, over time, the more work that I am putting in when I'm being engaged in workshops or speaking gigs or working with clients, the good work that I'm doing, that's going to have a result. And people, if they like my work, over time, I'm going to be known, hey, that guy is a really good digital strategist. He's a really good web developer. He's really helped me in e-commerce. The more work that I'm putting in is going to help develop my reputation over time. So your personal brand is that story that you are painting. It's the things that you are putting in that's going to influence your reputation. And over time, when you are known for something, your reputation. So I keep saying representation. Your reputation over time is going to be built based on the work that you have done and the story you have been putting online.
So though I understand what you're saying, I'm also thinking that, as you mentioned, it's just with the click of a button, people can learn a lot about who you are, what you do, and can learn a lot about what people think you are, or whom they think you are, and what you do. If that be the case, though I understand where you're coming from in regards to reputation, because of the digital age that we live in, how much control do you actually have over your personal branding in that sense, and even your reputation?
So you have control over your personal brand because again, your personal brand is, what you're putting out into the world. What strategies you're coming up with to showcase your skills and your expertise. Who are you going to be networking with and engaging with? What projects you're going to be taking on? So those things you have control over, right? Now, your reputation is the perception that people have of you. So whilst your personal brand and things you're putting out can influence your reputation, ultimately your reputation is based on what people think of you. So you could influence that, but you don't have 100% control over what people actively think of you. You could spend all the money, get the best visuals, get the best photographer, learn how to tell a story, but at the end of the day, if people aren't buying it and your reputation is, yeah, this person's is a fraudster, or maybe they're not good at what they do. We've engaged them on multiple projects and all the projects have failed. If you have that reputation, ultimately the public perception of you is going to cut down on the opportunities that you have. So your personal brand can influence your reputation, but ultimately your reputation is based upon people's perception of you.
So I understand that they're intertwined, but again, going back to personal branding and reputation, is it more than just having a digital presence? Does it go beyond just having a social media account, a LinkedIn account, whatever the case may be?
Yeah, so your personal brand again should be rooted in your skills, your experiences, your education, right? We see a lot where we have people who pop up overnight and they say they are this, right? And when you look, there's no proof that this is something that they have done. There's no track record. Nobody has heard of them. Nobody has worked with them. Um, so when people are doing their homework and they realize, okay, this person just kind of popped up, that's not good, right? You haven't built a reputation yet. People don't know you. But your personal brand goes far beyond just the social media platforms. It should be rooted in the work that you have done, your skills, your education, And when we're looking at, what types of, excuse me, when we're looking at what types of assets that someone should have when they're building their personal brand, you don't want to have just social media. You want to have things like your website, because your website's going to be the home of your brand. It's going to have all of your information. If you are in a particular space and you want to be known for something, you want to be able to showcase your experiences. You want to be able to educate, give people your train of thought on those respective topics in your space. So your home, your website is going to be able to do that for you and house everything. And you could go deeper. You could have things like a podcast. You could have a YouTube channel. So there are assets that you can build outside of social media to help bolster your personal brand. And those are going to be spaces that you can utilize to showcase your thoughts on your topics surrounding your industry.
Are these tools something that younger entrepreneurs are utilizing more rather than companies that are already established? Or are you also seeing more established entities using digital toolkits for their own personal branding?
Yeah, so we're seeing more people utilizing them because people are realizing the most fundamental thing is that the majority of our interactions are happening online. So if you want to be, if somebody's been in the game for a very long time and they're well known to their respective audiences, but there's going to be a new audience that's coming up who might need to utilize your services, and they might not know the people in your respective industry. So the first place they're going to go is they're going to go online. They're going to see who shows up. It's just how the world is going right now. We're Googling more than we've ever Googled before. We are going to research people online first. So whoever we research online is typically who is going to get our business, because that's really where the trust is built. We can see what you are all about. We can see your past work. We can see what people are saying about you online. We can learn more about you when you're creating content. We can see what your train of thought is on your respective industry. And if we agree or we align on the vision that you have, then when I come to you, I really want your particular set of skills and expertise, because I'm seeing that being displayed online. So yeah, you definitely want to be online, because the majority of people right now are going to do the homework first online, and that's really who's going to get the business first.
Is this an industry that has only grown following the COVID-19 pandemic? I know over the course of the pandemic, a lot of people focused on digital toolkits to help conduct business, because a lot of people were stuck at home. But since we've reopened, has that also remained a priority of focus? Has that industry continued to grow?
So that question is twofold. So as we know, or as the saying goes, Trinidad and Tobago is about 20 years behind the rest of the world, right? So the rest of the world has been using social media, has been building their websites to build their personal brands, selling their products and services online for, at least over 20 years at this point, right? This isn't new. We in Trinidad and Tobago and other parts of the Caribbean, we're lagging behind, and we're lagging behind bad right now. So the people who are actively in the Caribbean, who understand where the rest of the world has been, right? If you want to get business outside of the shores that you are on, you want to be able to build your personal brand and utilize all the different tools available to you. Because when a foreigner is looking to do business, right, they're not going to be in your country. They're not going to know the same people as you know. They're going online. They're looking to find who can help them. And if you are able to show up in the digital spaces, whether it be LinkedIn or whether you're showing up for Google on your respective industry, then people outside of your country are going to be able to find you and do business with you. So here in Trinidad, we kind of started to pick up after COVID-19, but that's really on the e-commerce side, where people were building websites. People wanted to learn how to sell their products and services online, because during COVID, we couldn't physically interact with people, right? So now that COVID is done, we have seen a lot of businesses kind of revert back to old ways. But as we also see, we have a lot of businesses that are closing down. And it's because they're not learning how to rake in that international clientele and get business from outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So this is something that we want to educate more businesses on and more people on, where if you learn how to craft, take your skill sets, And if you learn how to build your digital presence, if you learn how to use platforms like LinkedIn, get your website, understand how to show up in Google. That way, when people are conducting searches, they're finding you. That is a great way to start getting business outside of these shores.
And how much strategic thinking does one need, or strategic planning does one need before actually venturing into such? Because, as you said, we are years behind, probably even decades. And there are some that will just rush this overnight. Is strategic planning and thinking needed in order for implementation?
Yeah, absolutely. Because all of the assets that you have to build, you're not going to be able to build overnight. So when we're talking about assets, right? So the big one is, getting your own personal website done. So sure, there are tools that you could use. There are platforms like a Wix that allow you to kind of use a template. You could probably bang out your website in a day or two. But understanding how to put all of these assets to work, understanding how to create content, right? You're not going to be able to create the world of content overnight. It's going to take you some time to learn how to create written content, visual content. That could be videos, could be infographics, audio content, could be podcasts. Learning what people are struggling with in your respective industry. There are tools that kind of help you to understand what people are asking for in your related industry, and then learning how to turn it into content. So there's a few skill sets you're going to have to learn to be able to craft the right personal brand and learn how the different platforms work so that they can work in your advantage. So yes, there's definitely strategic thing that has to come into play. You can either learn the necessary skills to go about putting it all together, or you can work with a company, you could work with a digital strategist, you could work with somebody in PR, and they can help you kind of fast track what has to be done and what you need to put together your personal brand.
So this is more of a personal opinion. There are a lot of kids and teenagers that know a lot more about these digital tools than a lot of the older generations. In fact, they utilize it more and they study it a lot more. Is this something that perhaps needs to be introduced and implemented as part of a curriculum, as part of students even learning it from early within their education system, to develop such skills so that when they come of age, it's time to develop their own skill sets and develop their own entrepreneurial mindset, that they have that knowledge and education?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even put an age limit on this anymore. I mean, because all the people that I follow and I learn from are well over 45, 50s, still pushing 60s. And those are all the people that I'm learning from when it comes to building my digital assets, how to build on my digital assets. A lot of the people that I'm learning from aren't even young, right? So there's no age limit to learning any of these tools. Anybody at any age can learn how to leverage all the tools available. Heck, there is a lady, there's a TikTok coach on TikTok that teaches people how to utilize TikTok, and she's 65, and she has close to 500,000 followers, right? So there's no age limit. However, because of how the world is, in order to gain employment now, that is definitely something that should be taught in school, because traditionally we have been taught for as long as we can remember that education is the key to success. And once you get that education, you go look for a job on a website, or you go and find what government agency is hiring and go and apply for a government job, or go on a company's website, apply for the job, upload your resume, and at some point you should get a job. How people are gaining employment has tremendously changed, and learning how to gain employment is something that people should be taught in school, because you're not just going to come out of university with your degree and get a job, or get a job that's going to pay you well. No, you definitely want to learn how to build your personal brand. You want to learn how to network. You want to learn what platforms you need to be networking on, because we can get opportunities all over the world, but you need to know how employment is happening in 2024 and beyond. And if you don't know how to do that, you're definitely going to struggle, and you're not going to get the opportunities that some of the other people who are building a personal brand. Now, when you build your personal brand and you have the skill sets, you have the education, you're also going to be getting people who are finding you. They've heard about you, they've seen you, they see the content that you're putting out, they're going to reach out to you and initiate the conversations with you, and you're going to be able to create your own opportunities. You're not just sitting around looking for a job posting and hoping to apply for it. So I think learning how to apply for a job, that is something that should most definitely be taught as soon as possible, because then people know they can start to put the things in place from a younger age. That way they're more equipped to get a job when they come out of university.
I'd also make an argument about learning to stay in a job and learning to keep a job as well. So thank you very much. You know, Mr. Rose,
Absolutely.
yeah, that goes.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry,
Yeah. Upskilling is a real thing. So that's another big problem we have in the entire Caribbean region, where people get into jobs and they want to stay there for 20, 30 years. But the reality is that there are new jobs that are popping up every single day, while old jobs are being made redundant because the times are changing. There's new tools, there's new technology that's coming out to replace a lot of the old roles that have been around for a long time. And your job is to continuously learn and upskill so you can remain employable. You don't want to be that person who has held a job, but now your job is made redundant because there's a cheaper, easier, faster, more reliable way to do your job. And it doesn't make sense for the business to keep you around just because they want to keep you employed. You got to be able to upskill all the time to remain employable.
Certainly. Well, Mr. Rose, thank you so much this morning for your time. It's honestly been a pleasure. And if anybody wants to learn more about Mr. Rose or even more about what he was speaking of this morning, just visit KaronRose.com. A lot of information there. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break on AM Prime, and when we return, conversations continue. We'll be right back.
Alan's Funeral Home, Tunapuna. Relax. We know the loss of a loved one can be challenging, but we've got your back for all your funeral needs, from documents to the service and or burial. Let Alan's Funeral Home take care of you and your loved ones. We are located on the Eastern Main Road in Tunapuna. Call us today at 663-1829 or visit allansfuneralhome.com. Alan's Funeral Home. Let us take care of business.
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You walked with us side by side, and we continue to serve you with pride. First Citizens celebrates with you 30 years of achieving dreams, shaping success stories, and painting brighter futures together. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, together, 30 and beyond.
Let the Home Store turn your house into a home you love. Get everything you need to give your home that special look and feel. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. 5 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at Westmore, Pennywise Plaza Shoguanas, C3 Center Branch and C3 San Fernando. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
From Maracas Bay to Arapita Avenue and Piaco, Richard's Bake and Shark brings the world's most popular fish sandwich closer to you. Open daily at all our locations.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. I wonder if you recall, earlier this year, about May of 2023, I had a conversation with the Presbyterian School Board, one of the directors, and also the Mahasabha School Board We spoke to them in regards to a shortage of teachers in both the primary and secondary school level. Now, at that point, they said that they were meeting with the Ministry of Education and that a lot more was to be said following that meeting. But they also warned that if the shortage of teachers were not corrected, there may be deficiencies, especially for the start of the new academic year. Well, this issue was actually raised last week during the district convention of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association. So let's get back into that topic because it's absolutely concerning what is taking place. And the individual who raised that topic once more is joining me this morning. He's the first Vice President of Tutor, Mr. Adish Dwarka. He's with us via Zoom. Hello, sir. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Pleasant good morning, Kitchen. A pleasant good morning to your viewers worldwide.
Well, Mr. Dwarka, starting with what happened in May up until this point, the meetings that the various school boards as well as Tutor would have had with the Ministry of Education, what's come out of that?
Well, based on the discussions with the Ministry of Education and the Teaching Service Commission, according to the Teaching Service Commission, they usually put out their newsletter, quarterly newsletter, and in the September 23rd newsletter, what they would have issued was that they had interviews or successful interviews for 520 applicants in terms of the primary school level. So that is a step in the right direction. However, sometimes it has been our experience that those interviews, from the time success of those interviews have been taken place to the actual appointments, that period is usually a very long time. So although we see some action based on the action of the different denominational boards and the association, there has been some interview, some process taking place in order to remedy the situation. However, as I said, there usually is a long wait time between the process of interview, success of interview, and appointment of the successful applicants.
Could you give us an idea of what the student to teacher ratio may be? Just an average.
Well, it differs. It differs in different districts. Like, for example, in some of the more rural districts, the teacher to student ratio is basically what it should be. Like, for example, in secondary school, it's usually about 1 to 35. In primary school, 1 to 30, and of course, that's for the upper standards. And then, of course, at the infant level, 1 to 20, 1 to 25, right? However, because of the teacher shortage experiencing, and this is not something new, this is not something that started in May. It is something that has been a gradual process way back before the pandemic, coming into the pandemic. And of course, the pandemic did not assist the problem at all, right, in terms of the teacher shortages. So what happens now is that we're in a situation where in some schools, we have 1 to 35, 1 to 40 students in a class, right? And the classrooms are very cramped because administrators now have to take remediation measures in order to accommodate the students in the school with the limited amount of teachers they may have at a particular point in time.
Mm-hmm. Now also, is teaching still a profession that people are interested in?
Well, what I can do is that I can share some information with you in terms of what the ministry would have done. The ministry would have done an advertisement in January of this year for applicants into the primary school level. And the results are very interesting because according to them, based on the applications that came in, there were 221 males applying to the teaching profession in terms of primary school, and there were 1,909 females applying for positions in the primary schools. Now, one of the things that we need to look at is that in terms of males, because there's a serious problem in terms of shortage of males in the teaching system, right? For example, according to the Teaching Service Commission, currently there are 1,268 males, which is really 18% of the teaching population in primary that are males. And in the secondary school system, there is 1,900, which is really 28% of males in the secondary school system. So we are seeing a very great disparity in terms of the male to female ratio of teachers in Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, based on the applications that the ministry would have indicated in January of this year, that discrepancy continues. Now, the association would have had some discussion in terms of what could be the possible reason for that. And of course, one of the major factors is salary consideration, because in many homes, the male is the one who would provide the financial, the economic salaries for that particular home. And there is the argument that it may be insufficient. So therefore, they are seeking other avenues that may be more lucrative. And that could be a possible reason why they may not be joining the service. It's just one of them. But that's one of the reasons that may be for males not coming into the service.
But why is such a discrepancy concerning, the disparity between the number of males applying for the positions versus the number of females? Why does it matter?
Well, of course it matters, because what is happening, we look at the school system now, we are seeing the level of deviant behavior, we are seeing the level of violence, we are seeing the level of disrespect meted out to teachers, right? That male figure in a classroom represents a number of things. It represents a teacher, it represents discipline, it represents a role model, it represents a father figure, right? And if that is taken away from the system, we are going to have a more kind of matriarchal kind of teaching service. Now, it's not a negative thing, neither is it a positive thing, because we need that male figure, that father figure, that male role model within the classroom to guide the young men especially, in terms of the direction that we would want in terms of a society to become productive members of a society.
Mm-hmm. Given the figures that you shared with us previously, isn't it then, we can conclude, just based on the figures though, that the teaching service is still very much attractive to young professionals wanting to apply to become teachers? I understand what you're saying in regards to male and female, but still a lot of applications, about 2,000 plus.
Yes, because of course employment is an issue. So therefore, graduates coming out of the university, we have graduates with engineering degree with different levels of degree, and they are applying now because there is very limited employment in the fields that they would have been trained and graduated for. So what happens is a number of them would enter the teaching service, right? And that has been an issue in itself, because these individuals now have to be properly trained in terms of being able to perform at a competent level in the school system.
Mm-hmm. Now, therefore, the teaching service obviously still is attractive, but what I'm also getting at, where there's no shortage of talent. We can understand that there's no shortage of talent and no shortage of young professionals. But because of that lack of time in terms of, well, not lack of time actually, it's just the amount of time it takes from the interview process to actually being hired and placed within the system. Are there any concerns that we may have very soon a mass retirement of teachers and not the full complement of intake to actually facilitate that retirement?
Right, and that's the problem, right? So that's why the tutor is very concerned in terms of that, because tutor, every year or every couple of years, what we do is that we honor the retirees in the service, right? And because of the pandemic, we were not able to have that gathering to honor retirees. So from 2020 to 2022, for that 3-year period, we are honoring 850 retirees this year. It means, therefore, 850 teachers left the school system. And we are really unsure in terms of how many of those vacancies were filled by the Ministry of Education. So that is why tutor is very concerned, and we can understand the direction of the denominational boards in terms of trying to get teachers to, back in terms of the vacancies. So we are very concerned in terms of that particular direction, because the learning loss or the learning recovery as a result of non-teachers in the classroom is a difficult thing to mend, right? So whereas a curriculum may be able to be administered to children for, let's say, for a 2-year period, the Form 4, Form 5 curriculum in secondary schools, right? If there's a learning loss of, let's say, 2 terms, it's going to be extremely difficult, right, to complete that particular curriculum on time. So that is one of the things that we we are advocating for in terms of the teacher shortage, because we need that to be remedied. as quickly as possible.
Okay, so the Ministry of Education may never come out and say this, and you can't speak on behalf of the Ministry of Education, but you did mention that it's also the economic times and a shortage of jobs. Is it that the Ministry of Education simply cannot afford to hire new teachers?
Well, I'm not. The association is not of that opinion, because, as I would have indicated shortly, we had 850 retirees that we are honoring. So it means that those vacancies are there. The salaries would have been paid to those 850 teachers in previous years. So therefore, we can safely assume that they would have been on the establishment. Those people would have served teaching for 20, 30, and some of them in some cases 40 years. So therefore, the salaries would have been, in terms of recurring expenditure, been there. So therefore, those vacancies exist. So I do not see, or the association does not see, that there may be an issue to fill those vacancies in terms of the financial remuneration for those.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry if you may have hinted it earlier on, but just to clarify, has there been any indication as to why it takes so long then? As you said, 850 teachers, now 850 vacancies. Why does it take so long then? Has the minister given any indication? Has the Teaching Service Commission given any indication as to why it takes so long to fill these vacancies?
And I think it's a process, and that the bureaucratic process that exists there, right? Because, for example, teachers make an application, it goes to the Ministry of Education, they would process the application, they would assess the application. So they are assessed as Teacher 1, Teacher 2, Teacher 3, TBT 1, 2, 3, and 4, depending. When that happens now, then there is the interview process. So there is an interview process. After the interview has been completed, right, if the applicant is successful, then of course that information is sent to the Teaching Service Commission. That they are placed on a merit list, and the Teaching Service Commission then provides the appointment and whatnot, and then of course send that information back to the Ministry of Education, down back to the teacher, district offices to the teacher. And we are saying that that process, right, should be more efficient in terms of getting the vacancies filled. That particular process could be done in a timely manner, because tutor cannot understand the reason why it would take so long. After the process, if there is the assessment done, the interview done, the applicants are successful, they are placed on a list, the ministry must be aware of the vacancies that exist in schools in Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore the applicants could be placed. So we are not too certain why the process itself takes so long.
Beyond just retirement, are there any indications as to teachers resigning, leaving the service?
Yes, there were some instances where a couple of years ago and coming now, there has been advertisements within the Caribbean, right, in the Eastern Caribbean, those small island states, and of course within Canada and the United States. And we did have some teachers resigning and leaving and going to those places to take up more lucrative offers, as they see it. So we had those kinds of situations occurring.
Mm-hmm. What is interesting to me, and the reason why I asked that question, Mr. Dorica, is because I recall a story most recently coming out of Jamaica where there's been mass resignations, teachers leaving the service in Jamaica and actually going abroad because it's more lucrative rather than staying in Jamaica. But it's also a situation that is not affecting you. It's affecting many across the Caribbean. We're seeing a similar thing in Barbados, although the government in Barbados is trying a new initiative with the Fairfax County. And Guyana is now trying, because of Guyana as well, they're in a position where they're trying their very best to put into place various grants for teachers to access other material beyond just their regulated salaries. So I don't know if that is something that is taking place here in Trinidad as well, which is leading to a shortage. I know you said there's been great applicants and the number of people applying are there, the vacancies are there. But I'm just wondering if that is also a case here in TNT where there are going to be teachers now looking abroad for opportunities.
Now, one of the things that the association has been lobbying the Ministry of Education to do is that we have professionals in Trinidad and Tobago, young professionals. We have young graduates coming out from the ministry, from the University of the West Indies, from UTT and whatnot. Now, what we are saying is that we need to retain those people within the teaching service. So in order to do that, it has to be lucrative. right? It has to be, they have to see it as being lucrative for them, right? So salary is an issue, one, but we need to do more, right? So more could be done in making the service attractive in terms of resources that may be available to teachers, amenities that may be available to teachers. Because what is happening, if we look at the packages that are offered, especially by the Canadian government for teachers across there, they are making their packages very, very lucrative, right? In terms of salary-wise, one, in terms of getting families across there. So families are naturalized and whatnot. So they're making it very attractive in terms of the different allowances that they get as well, right? There's a huge disparity in terms of what is offered in Trinidad and Tobago. In Trinidad and Tobago, teachers get their basic salary and they get a COLA of $225. And that's basically what it is, right? There is no, like for example, in the military service in Trinidad and Tobago and the semi-military service like the police and prison and whatnot, they get housing, they get spouse, they get uniform, they get a number of different allowances, right? But what teachers have is just the basic salary together with a COLA, and that's basically it, right? So what we need to do, we need to look at what we want for the education system, because one of the themes given by Education International this year is the teachers we want for the education we need. So the education we need is an education in Trinidad and Tobago where we have all young people going through the secondary system, the primary school system, and coming out to be productive and successful members of society. If it is that we want something like that to happen, we need to invest in terms of the education system. So we want to retain the best teachers that we have. We want to make it lucrative. We want to make it an opportunity where teaching is a first choice career as opposed to maybe a second or third choice career going forward.
Well, Mr. Dorica, I want to thank you very much. When you said a COLA of $225, in my mind I'm thinking that's the price to fill up your gas tank now. But thank you very much. Nevertheless, I know there's the other issue of ECC and ECC teachers, but I know Tutor in itself was trying to work on that and sort of that with ECC teachers. So more to come, more to come. Any indications, just before we bid farewell, any indications of the possibility, not necessarily happening anytime soon, but in the future of the system, the education system collapsing because of this shortage?
Well, one of the things that we pride ourselves for as teachers is that we uphold the system, we prop up the system. So if there are shortfalls by the Ministry of Education, we do what is necessary. For example, we are currently in a heat wave. We have been asking the Ministry of Education to assist us in terms of dealing with some of the issues that we have in some of the schools, because some of the schools are 40 plus years, right? And all we got was an advisory. Okay, we can do this, we can do that. But actually physical structure and dealing with it there, what happens is that we have teachers, we have lobbying with parents, getting stakeholders to get funds in to improve the electrical. So the teachers itself come together and we prop up the system. So I don't believe that the teachers in Trinidad and Tobago will allow the system to fall down. We will do what is necessary. We will dig into our pockets. We will meet with the stakeholders. We will meet with parents and whatnot to try to make the system work. And that is one of the problems that we are having, right, in terms of the support from the Ministry of Education to do something like that. But we will not allow the system to fall.
Well, Mr. Dorica, I want to thank you very much for joining me on AM Prime this morning. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time, sir, and for bringing us up to speed with what is taking place. We had a conversation in May with various school boards. I'm glad we were able to have this conversation now, and in 6 months' time, hopefully it's not the same thing. Hopefully it's not.
And thank you so much for having me.
Have a good day. First Vice President of Tutor, Mr. Adish Dorica, joining me this morning. Well, you had it there. There you go. We heard from the Minister of Education at the convention where she indicated she actually did acknowledge that there are some issues, even in regards to the bureaucratic systems involved. But there is also the fact that 200 teachers actually, successfully graduated from the teacher induction training program. 850 teachers have retired, but look at how many applicants. So you really tend to wonder what truly is taking place there. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, just before we break for WSN's News on the Hour, let's squeeze in one regional update for you, because you know it's Wild Wednesday, so Wild Wednesday is after the news, but this update is coming from Cuba. Cuban doctors' missions in Kenya are now up, and time now lapses for those doctors as the Ministry of Health failed to renew their contracts. So you are aware of where Cuban doctors go to other nations, work within the public healthcare system. That has happened even here in TNT. But in Kenya, they've taken a different approach, a different stand. Let's get a look at this report.
Now, think of a country where its citizens are given machetes to defend themselves from gang violence, or where kidnappings and murders are on the rise year after year. That's how it's like in Haiti right now. The Caribbean nation has been plagued by gang violence for years, and the situation might even be worse now more than ever, especially after the assassination of President Jovenel Moise in 2021. Some estimates say that gangs control up to 80% of the Haitian capital, Port-au-Prince. In fact, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called the crisis a living nightmare. And into that furnace, Kenya is sending about 1,000 police officers by January next year, leading a multinational force to help calm the chaos. But this mission is not like what has been done before. So why does Kenya think it will succeed where other countries haven't? One of the countries that left a footprint in Haiti is Brazil. Here's my colleague Mariana Sanchez.
Brazil led the UN troops in the country, known as MINUSTA, for...
Wonder what happened there. That's the wrong regional update. We got that in yesterday. That's from Haiti. Never mind, we'll get the update from Cuba for you and we'll play it for you tomorrow. I apologize for that, but it tends to happen. No worries at all, ladies and gentlemen. In the meantime, let's go to WSN's News on the Hour. And when you get back, stay tuned to AM Prime. It's Wild Wednesday. And no live animals in studios today, but we have to continue it. So we're going back to one of my favorites. You'll see it after this.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I'm Sarah Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Migrant children to be enrolled in schools with trained teachers. Duma issues warning about significant road collapse. An elderly man was found wandering along Dan Kelly, Laventille. And internationally, Ukraine says it destroyed 9 Russian helicopters in an airstrike on 2 cities. Now for the details. Upon the finalization of the legislation, migrant children will be admitted to schools where educators have received specialized training in this domain. Minister of Education, Dr. Nayan Gazbidoli, conveyed this information during discussions with the Standing Finance Committee on Tuesday. The subject arose when Member of Parliament for Tabakit, Anita Haynes, sought insights into the government's strategy for implementing this initiative. Dr. Gazbidoli elaborated that in 2019, a collaborative effort was established between the Education Ministry, the Catholic Education Board, and the Living Waters community. This partnership led to the selection of certain schools where teachers receive training in this specific area to better accommodate migrant children. Furthermore, she highlighted the presence of ongoing systems designed to provide additional training to educators should the need arise. The Downtown Owners and Merchants Association has issued a public alert regarding a significant road collapse at the intersection of Frederick Street and Queen Street. In an official statement, Duma reveals that this road collapse was triggered by a leaking underground sewer line. Urgent repair work is now underway, being carried out by the Water and Sewerage Authority, necessitating the complete closure of the intersection. Duma has advised that individuals, especially southbound traffic on Frederick Street, should seek alternative routes during this period of the road closure. An elderly man was found wandering along Dan Kelly, Laventille. He's currently at the Besson Street Police Station. He's unable to communicate his name or address.
The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is seeking the public's assistance in locating the relative or caretaker of the man. Anyone with information can contact WPC Yearwood at 339-3542 or the Baston Street Police Station at 623-1395. Internationally, Ukraine says it has destroyed 9 Russian helicopters in an airstrike on 2 cities in the Russian-occupied east of the country. A Special Forces statement said an air defense system and other equipment were hit, as well as a munitions dump in the cities of Berdyansk and Luhansk. Dozens of Russian troops were killed or injured in the operation, it added. There has been no independent confirmation of the attack and no comment from the Russian military. Vladimir Rogov, the Russian-appointed governor of the occupied parts of Zaporizhzhia region, said air defense systems successfully intercepted enemy rockets over Berdyansk, adding that information about casualties and damage was being checked and would later be provided. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Sira Ali. Thanks for watching.
Since they were on sale, Laura bought these umbrella shoes without thinking. Literally, without thinking. Hungry for deals? You'd better come and satisfy it at KFC before doing something crazy. Wow Bucket. 7 pieces of chicken and 4 regular sides for $115. A finger-licking good deal.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Hello there and welcome back to AM Prime. Thank you for joining us this morning. Do you know what time it is? It's time for Wild Wednesdays. Guess what? Ricardo Mead is with us once more. Hello and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having us, and good morning to all our listeners and followers out there.
And we're also joined by Insa. Hello man, how are you?
I'm fine, good morning everyone.
Well, I think I'm looking forward to what you have in that bag this morning. I'm not sure it's moving around. We'll get into that for a moment, but how are things?
I can't complain. It's been a great long weekend working, doing a lot of work at the center and trying to do things a whole lot better in terms of enclosure-wise for the animals. And well, we had a lot of patients come in, but we've seen progress with a lot of them. So we're very, very buoyant and very happy about that progress.
When you say patients, what do you mean by that?
Well, our patients as a wildlife center would be various forms of local wildlife that people would have brought in or we would admit for certain reasons. So we have, as a patient, we have a green sea turtle that has the fibropapillomatosis virus, which is basically a form of turtle herpes. So it causes these massive growths all over, but it'll impair the vision, its ability to eat, and so on. So we have that to go through a whole series of treatments.
That naughty turtle.
Yes, well, no, I didn't get it that way.
I know.
We have lots of baby birds. They're still fledgling. People are still picking them up. We have lots of baby manacles. We've had in the past week 4 cases of mother manicle killed by the dog, so the babies have been orphaned. So a lot of work. Yeah, it happens quite often, including one just happened this morning. Well, they didn't know exactly what happened to the mother, but they found the baby on the ground, beaten up looking, so it may not make it. So birds shot, broken wing, broken leg. We have lots of patients all the time.
Oh, crikey. And that, as I said, you know, part of it is a love for wildlife, but even having to try and rehabilitate animals and in instances where they're not going to make it, such as the one you found as well. That must be...
Putting animals to sleep is a sad part of it, but it's a necessary part of it. You cannot just have the animal there saying, I don't want it to die, but watch it suffer until it dies. You're supposed to do no harm, just the same oath that doctors take and the vets take. So you have to do the best that you can for the animal, not for you, not for your personal feeling or your religious or ethnic background, but for the animal. So you have to separate yourself from the decision making and do it basically by the book. What is right for the animal?
Insaf, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great, man.
It's good to see him. Thank you for joining us. What do you do at the El Socorro Center?
Well, I'm a volunteer for the past 5 years, and I basically do anything that Mr. Ricardo wants me to do concerning animals. If it's rescuing, going to people's homes, helping relocate animals. Anything that he wants me to do, I volunteer and I help.
As long as he doesn't tell you you've got to eat the mealworms, because I think last week
Yes, I'm not taking part in that.
Of course, being a volunteer and whatnot, you love what you do. You love interacting with animals.
Of
and
course.
Part of it is rescue as well. I mean, you've been able to build relationships with animals as well over the last 5 years?
I think I do better with animals than people.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes I get that thought as well. Sometimes you realize you can sit down and talk to a dog for hours and hours, and it won't argue back. It might walk away after some time.
You're quite right.
So what do you have in that bag this morning?
Oh, well, we have a guy here named Mr. Carl.
Mr. Carl?
Yeah, C-A-L, short for Carl Cutter.
Okay, I'll tell you, hold one moment. Before you bring him out the bag, what are we dealing with? Just before you bring him out the bag, what are we dealing with this morning?
No, he's a little guy. You like to call him a little guy, a little boy. Yes, size little, plenty big. These are relative terms, value terms. It depends on the value placed on it. So he's little compared to the female, who is right now about 15 feet long and weighs about 155 pounds. So she is massive. Right? The same type of snake, she is massive. So we call him the little boy. When people say, wow, it's a big snake, we say, nah, he's the little boy. The males are usually much smaller.
I'm glad we got that out the way. It's a little snake. I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break here on the program, and when we return, we'll get the little snake on the table. I hope he really means little. Right back after this. Okay, so they said little. Do you guys think this is little? Let's welcome Carl to the program. Carl is over there next to himself. Hello, Carl. What is he little? What? There's nothing little about this snake.
Again, it's relative. He is little and tiny compared to the female, who is twice his length almost. And,
Twice his length?
Yeah, and weighs 100 pounds more than him.
So he's about massive. 7 feet.
Well, actually,
yeah, he looks a bit big.
Yeah,
7 feet.
yeah, he's probably hitting 10 easily right now.
Yeah.
I haven't measured him in a while.
Is he going to get bigger than this?
Yeah, he'll put on a little more length there to it there, but not too much bigger. The males don't get that much girth to them. The females do. They're the ones who have to produce up to 50 eggs, sometimes even 60, and incubate them. So they have a massive body to be able to accommodate.
Do all those eggs usually survive though?
I think the normal hatch rate is about 75 to 80%.
Okay, okay. He seems to be having fun with himself. He wants to just spend more time with his best friend.
Yeah, he's just moving around and so on like that there.
So tell us a bit more about Carl. Carl is just shed because his skin is absolutely silky.
Yeah, it's just, it's an amazing time when you feel them like this. After the shed, post-shed, they are silky, really smooth. There's no slime. You know, people are like, I don't like snakes, they're slimy. People, there.
You might be seeing
no
my
slime,
laptop.
see? No slime whatsoever.
At all.
Snakes are not slimy. I mean, if you wet anything, then it becomes slimy. So what this is an albino version of the Burmese python. The Burmese python is from Far East Asia, mainly from Burma, now called Myanmar, and then when you have a coup, it'll be Burma again. But it's from that region and in Southeast Asia, and they are in the top 5 of the largest snakes in the world. So they can get about 23, 24 feet quite easily and be pretty heavy.
Very muscular.
So they're very, very storied right now because they're invasive in Florida. Throughout the Everglades, which is a very delicate ecosystem, they have large pythons devastating their local wildlife, and they're very much concerned about that. They're even devastating some of the local animals. You come home one evening, your dog's missing, snake probably had it. So it's a very tricky situation, volatile situation in Florida. So they have some people coming from Burma and India to help them to hunt these specimens, and they're using all sorts of methods to hunt them. And people would have blamed pet owners for releasing these snakes, but the science has shown that that is not true. What happened is Florida is home or a landing spot or a breeding spot for lots of exotic animals that are distributed throughout the US. So they had breeding facilities that had large snakes that were of breeding size, and some of them were actually gravid. That means they were full of eggs. And quite a few years ago, I don't know if it was Hurricane Andrew, but one of the big hurricanes that hit Florida destroyed these facilities in Florida. So the snakes were released into the wild. People didn't actually go and release them. And with the release of these large females that were breeding size and full of eggs, they went out there and they started breeding. And now it's an explosion of these snakes throughout South Florida and then moving further north in the Florida region. So they're considered invasive and people do hunt them, but they don't kill them. They're encouraged to capture them alive and report it to the authorities, 1-800-I-GOT-1, and they will come and they will take the snakes and they will do tests on it and so on, do the DNA testing, because they need to know what's going on. And because of that DNA testing, they were able to tell that these snakes came from those original snakes that were in this breeding facility. In '86, this snake was invented. So this is the albino version to the Burmese. The Burmese sort of looks like a mackerel. It has similar sort of brownish colors, but they created this albino version. So albinism occurs naturally throughout nature. 1 every 250,000 birds is an albino in any animal. And it's usually a recessive gene, so you get a sort of throwback. But they were able to manipulate the genes to go from recessive to dominant. So anytime this snake produces offspring, you will get albino babies.
Wow. Where was Carl? Where did Carl come from?
Well, Carl is short for Calcutta. Carl was someone's pet who escaped and was found one night in the street heading towards a poultry depot. Yes, Carl was like, my belly real grumbling, I need to get some chicken. And instead of going to KFC, he went to the chicken depot because, of course, they eat it live and raw. So he was actually captured. The police were called in. You know, one of the guys was threatening to shoot it, and somebody says, no, that's somebody's pet. You can't shoot it. You can take it to the wildlife center. And so they brought it to us, and Carl has been with us ever since. And because of his size, he has overtaken our original snake as the main go-to ambassador to take out. She is just too big, too heavy. I need so much manpower to move her around. It's backbreaking.
160 pounds.
Yeah. So because Carl is just naturally going to be smaller, he's a lot easier to handle.
Now, comparatively, because I know in the serpent wool, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes the females are bigger than the males. Is that the only way you can tell if a snake is female or male? Because in other words, how can you tell?
Well, there are ways. The size is one, but one way you can tell with pythons and boas is looking by the cloaca. The cloaca is the exit of the snake. That's where all the reproductive functions take place, as well as urates and fecal matter passes. So you've seen these two brown spots here. These are called spurs. The males have very prominent spurs. The females are almost invisible. This is actually, it's like a hook. right? Like a hook, almost like a horn. There it is. And what that is that it is actually the remnant from when snakes had feet. Yes, from when snakes had feet. Let's see if you can get it wrong. Easier for the camera.
Let's
right
bring
there.
Carl a bit more.
Right? So that right there displays as 1, 2, and he actually used this when copulation. He would help to sort of move them a bit and, you know, tell the girl, hey babes, you know, hey, how you going? You know, I'm a cool guy and stuff like that there. So that's one of the easy ways of telling a male from a female in the pythons and in the boas. Wow. Quite easily, just so prominent. If you look at the female, it would probably be clear and tiny. You'd have to really look. I think she has something there. But in the guy, you can see that from a mile away. That's a guy. So it comes like a mammal with his hanging sort of thing there. Easy to tell.
Insaf, you've been handling Carl there on that end. Carl is very much exploratory this morning. But Carl seems so calm around you. Carl seems he's like he's just going towards you all the time. He doesn't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah, I think he has a special liking for me.
But you have a special liking for Carl as well?
Of course, yeah.
Serpents are what, your favorite?
Yes, they are.
And how do you handle them? Do you ever had a fear for snakes to begin with?
No, I just be hopeful that they don't bite me.
I think we all are hopeful. But then, Saf, tell us even in regards to like feeding Carl.
Feeding? Well, normally a snake this size eats something large, right? And normally we give him like a large duck or 2 big chickens, and that lasts him for about 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. So we try to feed him like every month or so.
So okay. Well, that's right. And what about in regards to, because he just shed, but in mating, is it like a mating season or?
I'm not sure about the mating season. Mr. Ricardo here can...
Well, we have no concern about the mating season because we have no intentions of putting the snakes together. There's no intentions of breeding these snakes. And for a simple reason. One, it is not native to Trinidad. This is not going to be found naturally in Trinidad. It's actually a little bit big for our ecosystem. We have the anaconda, which is naturally found here, but that's an aquatic type snake. We do not believe that this snake should be in the hands of regular people. Leave it for the professionals. You'll hear me say that many times because a lot of things there should really be left. It can be quite dangerous. And that thing, and let's clear this up once and for all because so many people come to me and I just shake my head and say, They read this story on the internet about this lady who had a python and then one day it stopped eating and it was laying down next to her. So she went to the vet and the vet told her, well, it stopped eating and it's laying down next to you because it's sizing you up to eat you. That and some gobar can be put in the same category. You could go and plant okra with that. It's not true, okay? This snake is bigger than me. This snake is about close to 10 feet. It's much bigger than me. There's no way this snake can begin to even dream of eating me. Okay, so that's just not, snake don't do that. They don't size up anything. They would look and they would see the hicks and determine if I'm going to go for that or not. So that is not, but it has been on the internet for the past, I think, about 17 years. And it just keeps going. And every time we go to display, someone comes up and says that story. And I just said, okay, it doesn't work like that. That's a story. That's not true.
So part of all of this, and part of all of what we're doing here, let's bring Carl around a bit more. I'm missing Carl, actually, on my end. But in that sense, part of all what we're doing here, what we're trying to achieve, hello, Carl, good morning, welcome you. You're not sizing me up. We just got that disinformation out. It's actually trying to stop this disinformation that is being shared and misinformation.
Yeah. And once things get on the internet like that, it's shared and somebody's like, oh my gosh. And I tell you, there is no display that we have ever gone to with the snake that someone hasn't come up to us and told us that story. It just is not true at all. This snake eats chickens.
So let's speak about eating one more time because I think we all have a fair idea of how boas work. They're non-venomous. They actually, constrict. So they suffocate their prey by using musk. Because if you feel Carl is bloody muscular. But what about even hooking onto prey? Is there like special teeth inside?
Yeah, they have lots of teeth all pointing backwards. So if something is trying to get away and they grab into them, and the more the animal pull it, the more the teeth goes in and gives that grip. So after the grip, then it would do something called throwing coils around it. So it has the animal bitten and held, and then it would wrap its body around it, because it uses its muscular body now to do the constriction. So even though it's a python, it does constrict the same way a boa constrictor does. And the way it really works is that, imagine you laying on the ground and someone comes and sits on your chest. You wouldn't die, but it becomes harder to breathe. Now if someone sits on that person, sits on your chest, now you have two people sitting there, it's even more difficult. And by the time a third person sits, your air passages, your respiratory system would be so constricted that your body would shut down and you would die. So it's the same way. They don't actually crush the prey to death. I mean, that can happen with the bigger snakes like this if the prey is small enough, but it's by constriction. By constricting the respiratory system, it shuts down, the blood pressure goes high, and it just shuts down. And when it's determined that the prey is dead, it would release it and maneuver from the head and swallow it. So here's a reason why snakes hardly eat people, even though they're large. The snake would stretch its jaw. They don't unhinge the jaw. They just sort of stretch. It's very flexible. So we'd stretch the jaw, and it would go for our heads first.
Stretch
so after
dislocate or just?
No, not dislocated. Just it's very, very, very malleable. So it goes over our head. So the mouth comes over and eats our head, and then it sort of closes back in. The problem with them is now they have to try to re-stretch to get our shoulders. So our shoulders are the main reason why snakes don't usually go for people. Now they can, and they have eaten small people and with large snakes, large reticulated pythons and so on. But it's not a normal food for them at all. It's a lot of effort, a lot of problems, right? Somebody like you and me, look, our shoulders broad. The snake is going to be unable to do that. So unless it's probably one of the most, massive specimens ever recorded to be able to do something like that. So for example, they found a human in an anaconda in Brazil.
Yes.
They killed it and they cut it open and they found a human. It's like, oh my gosh, these terrible snakes killing people. When they did the autopsy as required by law, they found 9mm slugs in the person. So you think the snake was packing a 9s and shooting the man and then eat him? No, someone shot that person, and it was a small native person, and threw the body into the swamp, and the snake was like, I could take down that little guy.
Yeah.
It's free food.
So again, all that is part of it, because I've seen those stories circulating. All I know, they found the body of a snake inside of, of a man inside of a snake. Snake kills man and devours it. But also, the flickering of that tongue. That's
like us, looking around. What's going on? Where am I? Right? They're sensing and tasting the air and figuring out what's going on.
Okay. Hello. And stuff, in regard to feeding, is it live feeding that you guys do?
Yes.
Live feeding?
Yeah.
So you guys would place the chicken or the ducks in the enclosure, and he would just do everything else?
Yeah, we try to keep it as natural as possible.
Well, that is excellent. But this is, as you said, not native to Trinidad, so there are no plans to release Carl?
Absolutely not. In fact, he was saved from being released, as it were. That's another reason, like I said, there's a reason we have no intentions of breeding them. Normal people cannot handle this animal in terms of feeding it, housing it, and possibly socializing it so that it does not become, I'll bring it back a little bit, so that he does not become a problem, a menace to them or their family. Because it can possibly grab a small child, and while it may not try to eat him, it can hurt. It can hurt the child or the owner, as it were. So to prevent situations like that, leave it for the professionals. This is too much snake for most people who like snakes to handle. It really takes a lot of effort.
I think he likes me.
Right? Yeah, he's just going to keep moving and coming towards you. The warmth that probably is coming off of the laptop and so on there. He's just going to keep moving around.
Look at Carl. He's just having fun this morning, guys. Sometimes I think to myself, I would love to have a snake as a pet. I like snakes.
Right.
But as you just mentioned, in many instances, just leave it up to the professionals. Let's do the handling.
Responsibility. You have to be responsible. Okay, I would love to have a lion as a pet. Does it make any sense, really? No. I can tell you one thing. I can, for sure, they smell awful. I'm telling you.
Lions?
They smell awful. Most of the big cats, they smell. We have ocelots and they smell awful. So imagine something that is a few 100 pounds, and their natural odors and with the mate. No. Leave it for the professionals, the proper institutions who can handle them and provide for them the space that they require. Imagine somebody with this in an apartment in New York, a lion and a tiger. It has been done, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
You also, what you do is that you help people overcome a fear.
Well, that's if they up to it. Because some people think they're not afraid of snakes, and when they actually see the snake in front of them, yeah, that fear come right back to them. But what they tend to do, they end up respecting the snake, you know.
Respecting. I like how you phrase that, respecting the snake. Because, you're right. Is it that people, I know some people say, okay, could you put the snake around my neck? I want to take a photo. And then there's just people say, no, I'll just touch it. I'll just touch the end of the snake and whatnot. So surely also as well, that level of respect, you as a handler and as a volunteer in your relationship with animals, certainly when you're able to say, all right, okay, helping this person overcome their fear, they put it around their neck, that does a lot for you as well.
Well, yeah, because sometimes like they react in the wrong way, they scream, they move kind of aggressively around them, and that might
start the snake as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you see, the thing is, I relate so much to Insaf when he says, I think I have a better relationship with animals than with people. I absolutely love animals, not so much for insects. So yesterday when you said it was a surprise, I'm like, I hope he's not bringing what I think he's going to bring.
One day, but we'll let you know. You won't surprise.
No, not one day. We're good. We're good.
Come on, it's Wild Wednesday. We're going to get wild on this show. And this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning.
So from next week, Wednesday as well, you can join Ricardo Milan volunteers of the El Socorro Center for Wildlife Conservation right here on AM Prime for Wild Wednesdays. Guys, thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having us, and thank you on behalf of Carl and all our wild friends out there. Next week is going to be special. Next week, Wednesday, is World Animal Day.
Oh, how fitting.
How fitting. So we're going to get really wild. We're going to get something really special next week, Wednesday, for viewers, listeners out there. World Animal Day for Wild Wednesday.
Something special. I can't wait for that. Insaf, a pleasure meeting you, my friend. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me as well.
And thanks for bringing Carl. Carl, it's a pleasure meeting you. It's good seeing you. Look at those eyes. They're absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. Mr. Mead, looking forward to next week.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much. And again, for your followers, friends, audience out there, you can follow us on social media, ECWC_TT. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Threads. We're out there, and we have our website, Wildlife Rescue TT. We had someone call us from California again on Sunday because she Googled wildlife rescue in Trinidad, and we came up and she called us to report there were some dead seals in Trinidad. But Trinidad, California.
Wow.
So they always shock when I tell them they reach the Caribbean. They're like, what?
Goodbye, Carl. We'll see you again very soon, buddy. Take care. You can say goodbye to the cameras over there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Keaton Shaw. It's been my pleasure wishing you a good day ahead, a productive day. And we'll see you again tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. Until then, keep well.
WESN.
I am Sule A. Joseph, and we are WESN, Content Capital.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't